few days ago, I had to withdraw from a television show that I was invited to participate in because I was threatened. Because not only I was threatened, members of my family were threatened, my pets were threatened. Hello, gorgeous. Welcome to Cutting the Caboose. Hope you're having a terrific day. I've got a bit of a dark one, I'm afraid, this week. And I'm going to talk about bullies and cyberbullies in particular. Something called TERFs, which have, I think I've touched on them briefly before, and stay tuned. So I'm going to be honest, recording this is one of these shows where part of me, a little voice, is kind of telling me maybe I shouldn't. But you know what? I refuse to change my life because of bullies and because of violence and because of hate. So I'm doing it, and I suspect it's going to lead to more stuff. But recent events have opened my eyes somewhat to a certain faction, shall we say, I don't know if that's the right word, a certain group of individuals. And I need to talk about it because I've got pretty broad shoulders, and I know other people are being, affected far worse than this. So let's get straight into it. So here's the thing. You'll have seen from my other shows that I tend not to take cyberbullies and hate comments and all of that sort of nonsense too seriously. I've got pretty thick skin, and I usually make jokes and I'll make shows about the ridiculous levels of hate comments. If there's a transgender woman, that's what you get. Okay, or anybody, LGBT, all of that, right wing, left wing. People on the internet love to hate you. Okay, that's just the way it is. But I've also said before not to confuse hate with people who just have a different opinion. Some people just don't agree with you. That doesn't mean they hate you, they just disagree with you. And I've always said, in fact, I think I used TERFs in this particular example, that if somebody's rational and reasonable, then sit down, have a chat, talk to people. Don't just dismiss people because you don't like what they say. There's a difference between hate and a difference of opinion, okay? And I like to think I'm above, petty squabbles, and I can get to the root of a problem and we can discuss something, because as always, the truth is always somewhere in the middle. Well, a few days ago, I had to withdraw from a television show that I was invited to participate in because I was threatened. Because not only I was threatened, members of my family were threatened, my pets were threatened, and it shook me. And this is the first time that anything has kind of rattled me for, well, a long time. And I'm a little bit embarrassed. I'm a little bit upset at myself for allowing myself to be affected by online hate in this manner. I feel, and I feel that I'm open, and I go with, full disclosure on this channel. So and this is why I'm talking about it. And sadly, this is where the TERFs come into it. Well, you decide, you decide how you think this went down. So here's the story. So TERFs. TERF is an acronym, and it stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. It's a loose term that basically means someone who claims to be a feminist and gender critical, and they like to and generally kind of not anti-men, but they aren't a big fan of men and the patriarchy. And you know what? That part of that is true. There is absolutely gender inequality. So I understand why we need feminism. In fact, I'm a feminist. That's a completely separate issue, but I'm absolutely a feminist. And what TERFs believe, and this is kind of a simplification of it, is that transgender women or trans women don't actually exist. Trans women are men abusing their male privilege to enter women's spaces, and that because some men are violent, then women have to protect themselves from trans women because they think they're men, and so therefore they need to be protected from trans women. That's a simplification, but that's basically where they're at. Okay, make of that what you will. And it's kind of, like I say, I am summarizing very briefly where it comes down to, but if you dig into, the common themes you see, they deny trans women exist. They want to bar trans women from entering certain places, and they would be very happy if trans women would simply cease to exist. And now, look, you'll hear the phrase Nazis and extermination and final solution. Don't go down that path. If you start researching this, there's a big difference between a Nazi and a TERF. Okay, let's not go crazy. However, well, you'll see what happens next. One of the things that you'll see, and I've always thought that this group stood for, was open debate, was discussion, was to let's sort out the problem as they perceive it. Now, admittedly, in most places they are creating the problem that they claim to be finding a solution for. A problem doesn't really exist, but that's true of a lot of things. Okay, and they claim to be anti-violent, and they claim to be aggressive, and a lot of nice words. And that's what I thought until very recently. I just thought it was a broadly left-wing group, and that's fine. I've never really encountered TERFs, to be honest with you. I tend to believe that people are entitled to having their own opinions. I have my opinions on things, and that's fine. I've never really wanted to engage with people at that level, if I'm honest. I've said in discussion before that if a gender-critical feminist wants to have a chat, yeah, look me up. That's fine. Okay. However, my view very recently changed, and not in a good way. So as I mentioned earlier, I was invited to go onto a chat show on the BBC, a discussion panel show. And the BBC wanted to know what my views were on gender equality as a trans woman. And because I've written about this in the past, and it was basically, I'll summarise what I was going to be going on the show for. And it's a case of, when I was perceived as male, and now that I'm perceived as female, how I'm treated differently in society, particularly in all manners. The stories that I was invited to discuss were things like, in the past, I'd go into a garage or, to have a tyre replaced or something, and it would just be a no-nonsense transaction. I'd get the tyres replaced and I'd be on my way. Whereas now, long hair, boobs, and suddenly it's like, oh, I don't know, see, love, it could be a problem. It could be could be your flange joints or something, and it's like, really, seriously, and it was that sort of, slightly humorous, but also quite real, that I'm now treated as if it's not possible that I would understand anything about automotive engineering or anything else, even though, it's unusual as far as men are concerned, that a woman would have been, replacing the valve stem oil seals or the big end shells on an engine from 8 years old. I love mechanics. I'm a grease monkey. But there we are. That's basically what I was being asked on the show to discuss, is how I've seen society treat me differently. Turns out that did not go down well with these TERFs. The BBC perfectly, and I did it myself, retweeted and tweeted the show, that they promoted the show and that I was going to be on, and I retweeted it, and that was fine. And up until like a day or two before the show, it was really exciting. We were getting a lot of following, a lot of interest. It was going to be a good show. I was really looking forward to it. And then on the day of the event, or I can't remember exactly, or possibly late on the day before, they spotted me and lost their shit. They were incensed that a transgender woman, a man pretending to be a woman, dared have a view on the differences between the perception of men and women in society. How dare they invite a tranny, as they like to, in this case, like to say, on. And this should be exclusive to women only, and it was like crazy, like foaming at the mouth rage. And I'm like, okay, this is a little heavy. And I even said, guys, this is, I've responded to a number of, strong reactions to say, what's the problem here? My views are valid regardless of whether you believe I'm male or female or whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm going on to discuss my, how society perceives me differently. What's the problem with that? No, I'm not interested. They absolutely shut down. Don't want to talk to you. You're just there. It's like, wow. For a group that, apparently, wants to promote discussion, this was really hostile. So I just thought, I don't care, walking away. Seriously, somebody else's circus, somebody else's monkeys, you crack on, And unfortunately, ignoring them just made them even more crazy. And then the abuse started. As the showtime, when they realised they weren't getting a bite out of me, they started to get really, really nasty. And look, let me read out some of the tweets that started happening. Okay, it started off as your fairly typical, abuse. Things like you can't buy chromosomes. And this is why if people are digging into my past, because they started to dox me, by the way, and by that I mean putting out where I live and my past and press stories about me from decades ago. And, they were really, really laying it on thick, okay? If you're looking into my past, you would know that I've got Chappelle syndrome. I already have female chromosomes. It's a birth defect. What the hell, How many times have I got to explain this to idiots with internet connections? I don't know, but anyway, you can't buy chromosomes. This was a boot. You're not a real woman until you've been raped by a man. Okay, well then that's like anyone who isn't a rape victim isn't a real woman. Really? And then the threats started. Looking forward to meeting another pretend woman. We'll be waiting for you outside. Threat much? Not that bothered by that. Look, I'm 6 foot tall. I'm comfortable with self-defense. I lift weights. Say all you want to me. I'm not gonna bite. And then this happened. I'll say hi to your mum when I see her. Okay. And then, wouldn't it be a shame if something happened to your cats while you were filming at the BBC? Now, I don't know about you, but that is creepy AF. That takes things to another level. Now, threaten me, come at me, I'm just going to laugh at you. But when you start involving my family and my pets, and the fact that you've dug into my social media to look for these weaknesses, and you start threatening innocent animals and my mum, seriously. What sort of people are these? I went to the police because that's the point where I'm thinking, okay, this is batshit now. They started throwing abuse at the BBC show, calling them handmaidens. Honestly. So, regrettably, and I was kind of shaken by this, I'll be honest, even though I'm like, whatever. When they started, the attacks against people close to me became that I wasn't expecting that. I was not prepared for that. The doxing, I'm fine. It's not a secret. Yeah, I was shaken, and I had to withdraw from the show because imagine if something had happened. Now, in hindsight, in reflection, after sleeping on it, I think I was wrong to withdraw from the show. I don't think this attack was going to go anywhere. It was just threats to silence me, to shut me up, because they hate the very fact that I exist. And so, in hindsight, I'm so angry at myself that I let them win this one. It's the last one, but there we are. And part of me wants to say, don't put this out there. Don't show them that they've scored a point. But I also feel that people need to know what to expect, especially if you're coming out as trans, that there are these people out there and these are the lengths that they will go to. And this isn't just TERFs, there are other people who are batshit crazy too. It's something that needs to be talked about. And so that brings me to where I am now, and I'm doing this little show, this video about this. I've been asked to by people and they feel it should go out there, and they're right. If somebody has to put this sort of information out, that this is what can happen. This so goes against everything that they claim to preach. So in a nutshell, I'm kind of rescinding what I said earlier about wanting to sit down with these people. Seriously, if you're part of this group of people, if you're the sort of person that has to resort to violence to silence people you don't like, I have nothing to say to you, ever. Forget dialogue. You are my enemy if that's the way you behave. Look, I think it's fair to say that I do not think that these people represent all TERFs. I honestly don't. I think that there are almost certainly some balanced, gender-critical feminists. I'm not really sure if they are feminists, to be honest, because it seems to go against everything I believe in about feminism, which is inclusion. But I like to think that there are people amongst this group who aren't foaming at the mouth, hate-fueled. But from my experience, this is the modus operandi. This is just how they are. On the surface, preaching nice and peace, and then as soon as you scratch it a little bit, you see this coming out, And just to put it out there, if you read a lot of the literature and the sort of the popular TERF websites, they will use the analogy of, well, yes, I know not all, men are violent, but hey, taxi drivers still have got to put a screen up in the back of their taxis, right? Because some people are violent, therefore we must treat them all the same. Well, what's good for the goose, right? So if this is, you can't then complain that people are saying, well, this doesn't represent all TERFs, when you're claiming that a violent person represents all men or all transgender women. It kind of works two ways, just, And that's kind of where I'm at. For the record, I think TERF is a really bad acronym. Yes, it's trans exclusionary, but there's nothing radical about this. This is just plain old-fashioned hatred. This is nothing new. So I don't even know. So there we go. That's my little story. That's where I'm at. Yeah, one of the more preachy ones I've done, I guess. Just putting it out there. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope that somewhere this is useful for someone, even if it's just to forewarn you of what to expect, and perhaps, maybe don't let people score points. Because even people like me, who are really thick-skinned about these things can sometimes fall prey to it. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching. Honestly, I love the fact that you watch my shows. That's just amazing. Thank you so much, and I shall see you in the very next show. Like, comment, subscribe, share, dislike. It's all good. Thank you so much. Bye. Mwah.